Hi, we're talking about books today. Welcome to my reading wrap-up of 2023. We are just gonna talk about my top 5 books. Even though this year I only read 25 books and I didn't have any 5 stars this whole year, I will say I am really picky about what's 5 stars. So there's a few of these that for another person it could be a 5 star, but for me it was like a 4.75 whatever. This will be a mainly spoiler-free video, except for one, but it's a book that was released about 100 years ago. If you haven't read it, that's kind of a you problem. Ugh, not the movie. Okay, yeah. The only book that is in this that will not be spoiler free is a classic, and it was released in 1868. First, we're gonna go from my lowest rated to my highest rated. So these are all 4-star books. I rated all these 4 stars, but I would say my first book that I rated the lowest, it just didn't meet my expectations, was Little Women. I went into this already having read it once, but I read it when I was really young. I think I was 11 when I read it before. I remember being obsessed with Amy. She was my favorite character, and back then everybody hated Amy. The old movie, everybody was like, Amy's the worst sister. Now, as I'm reading it later, I felt like Jo was more immature than I remember her being, because I remember when I read it when I was younger, I was just like, wow, Jo is so profound, she knows what she wants to do, everything like that. Reading this again, I still love Jo. I just felt like she had a lot of disregard for other people that fits into her character. Every character has to have flaws, but she just seemed to really disregard people in order to be herself. So I don't know, it's specific for her time period, I suppose. I watched the Little Women movie when it came out, and I remember thinking, I don't know how anyone ships Jo and Laurie. And then I was like, wow, see, Amy and Laurie are just, they're the couple. I love them so much. And then I read it again, and I gotta say, this was a very disappointing portrayal of Amy and Laurie, because something that really weirded me out is Laurie refers to Amy as being like his sister multiple times, and then he marries her. Just, I don't know. That was, I don't know. Which, I still don't ship Jo and Laurie. This book was just disappointing in terms of Amy and Laurie to me. I don't know. She describes him as looking elder brotherly when he's saying, because you know that scene in Little Women when Laurie's like, don't marry him. And Amy's like, you know, you can't treat me like that because you just want Jo, you don't want me. The moment in the book where he says, you are not engaged, I hope, and she says, and Laurie looked very elderly, brotherly, and grave all of a sudden. Because in this book, it comes off as he's trying to protect his younger sister. But in the movie, it's, don't marry him because I love you. I don't know. I read this early on in the year, but yeah, 4 stars. Compared to the movie, it was disappointing. Which everybody always says, the book is better, the book is better, the book is better for everything in every situation, but I feel like that's not true for classics. I feel like a lot of the times watching a movie about a classic is just so much more mesmerizing than reading a book about a classic. There is one book that I do not have a physical copy of. I had a physical copy of, and then my mom donated it, which is a shame because I wanted to read it again, but it's fine. It's fine. And that book is Snowflower and the Secret Fan. I'm sorry, I need to catch my breath. I'm talking too much. Do I have a photo of it? I think I have a photo of it. Let me find my mini book for it, and I'll just show the mini book. Other than the fact that the cover is absolutely beautiful, it is such a good book. It was amazing. I loved it. I need to hold a book just so I can talk with the book. I loved it. I thought it was great. If you want to know, it's about 2 girls from 2 different families in, I'm not sure what year, but olden China. And if you don't know about their marital traditions in China, this is illegal now, but they did foot binding, which is basically the smaller your foot is, the more likely you are to get a husband. So much so that women who did not have bound feet were considered to already be old maids. They weren't going to marry because their feet weren't bound. Basically, it's about a friendship of two girls, and they communicate through this fan. They write like caricatures on it, and then they pass it back and forth. They become best friends, and it's about how they navigate their marital prospects. It's just so atmospheric. I will give a trigger warning. It is really gross, the first few chapters. I'm not gonna spoil too much about it, but it's about foot binding. They literally break their feet with foot binding. You put it together, it's kind of nasty, and it's very graphic how they describe it the first few chapters, but I wouldn't let that deter you. Once you get through those first few chapters, it makes you so much more involved in the story because you know what a process it is. I rated it almost 5 stars. I think it was a 4.50 because the pacing of it was a little weird. It lagged in the middle just a little bit, but if you want another short book to add to your TBR, I think it's an amazing book, and it moved me so much. I cried at the end of it. It was great. I loved it. We are going to move on to another book that it was sort of guilty pleasure. It wasn't like a wow, this book was amazing type book. It was just like, wow, this was so entertaining and I loved it and I was never bored. It's The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. Can I just say, I love Sarah Adams. I think she's a newer author because she only has 3 books and I bought all of them. I've read 2 of them. I haven't read Practice Makes Perfect yet. I read Cheat Sheet, When in Rome. I liked When in Rome. I usually don't love small town romances. It's not really my vibe, which is kind of funny because I watch videos from Steph, which if you don't know her, she's an amazing book YouTuber. I watch a lot of her videos and she loves small town romance. It's like her genre, like especially like small town cowboy romance. That is everything I hate in a novel. But I loved When in Rome though. Like I read other small town romances that I just didn't vibe with. I didn't like it. It wasn't big enough for me. They didn't have enough of a plot for me, but I really enjoyed When in Rome, and I really enjoyed The Cheat Sheet, which is a sports romance. I love sports romances. It's a sports romance between a ballerina. I will say the writing is ever so slightly cringy, but I thought it was really great. I loved it so much that I went back and annotated it. Like I practically read it twice, went back and re-annotated it, and it was just so cute and it made me laugh. It was genuinely a funny book. It's one of those moments where you're reading and you laugh and then you're like, oh, I'm laughing at words on paper, and then you feel crazy. It was a super quick read. I think I read it in like 2 days. It was super fast. It's only like 300 pages, so just give it a shot. It is a little not like the other girls stereotype, just a little bit. The girl in this book, I loved both characters. Trigger warning, it does depict panic attacks, but if you're somebody who has panic attacks and you read books and you're like, ooh, that is not accurate at all, you will like this book a lot more, because if you're somebody who you don't mind reading about panic attacks and you have them, this book I thought was a very accurate depiction. I actually didn't even see the trigger warning at the beginning. I should probably look out for those more because I feel like I read a lot of books that have trigger warnings and I just don't read them. I think I gave this like 4.25 stars. Maybe just a flat 4 stars. I don't know. It wasn't anything amazing. It got me out of a huge reading slump because like literally all of August, September, and October I read 0 books. I started this one in November, I finished it, and I read like 5 books in November. Next, we have my summer read that was just so good. I love this book. It's so good. I loved it. And you know it's good when it's a book that you read months and months ago and it's still stuck with you. I have been waiting to read this book for so long. I will say, I don't love this cover as much. I don't know, I think it's the UK cover that I like more. And it's like them sitting at a table and they're like all mad at each other. I think this is the US cover, but I like the UK cover more. I love The Hidden Game. I gave this 4.75 stars. I don't think it was a 5-star because it did take me a while to read. Most of my 5 stars are books I read within like a day. And it's an enemies to lovers, but it's sort of like an office rivals. I wouldn't say it's enemies to lovers. It's an office rivals to lovers. It was so cute. I loved it so much. I love Joshua. Oh, there's 2 Joshuas in this thing that I'm doing. Anyways, I love Joshua. I thought he was great. I love both characters. Lucy, she's from a small town. Joshua, he's from this upper end group of doctors, is his family. And this book made me laugh. They have amazing banter. I love their banter in this book. Joshua is genuinely a great guy. I feel like in so many like enemies to lovers novels, the guy is just genuinely a bad person and you're like trying so hard to like the romance, but it's like the guy is so mean. Why would I like him? I need to catch my breath again. I never talk like this in conversations. I just talk fast when I record. Oh, my phone's at 10%. I need to do homework after this. There we go. We are all charged up. Last but not least is the book I finished last in this year, which is Twisted Hate. This is my biggest book of the year? No. My biggest book of the year was Little Women. I don't know which one is bigger because Little Women is like 456, but the print is extremely small and the book is really small. So I'm thinking if the print was on a regular size page, it would probably be equivalent because the text is so small in Little Women. Like, the text is so small. But in pages, Twisted Hate is bigger. Twisted Hate, okay. As of 2023, I had only read Twisted Love and Twisted Hate. I skipped Twisted Games, which I'll talk about that later. I ended up reading Twisted Games, but I think I will make a full video on the Twisted series because it was a really great series and I want to talk about it. So I think I will make a whole video, so I won't talk too much about this. The only things I will say is that it's a great book. I got through it really quick. It wasn't my favorite in the series, but it was very close to being my favorite. And Josh Chen gets way too much hate. Sorry, I said it. Also, notice how I'm choosing to put this in the video instead of Twisted Love. I didn't really like Twisted Love, if I'm being totally honest. I'll talk about it more in my actual video for the Twisted series. But yeah, Josh Chen, too much hate. Jules is my favorite character in this whole series. I love Jules. Jules is my everything. Like, I think Jules is like the best, one of my favorite characters ever. I'll say it. I think Jules is one of my favorite characters ever. I totally recommend reading the series out of order also. Like, it doesn't matter which ones you read first. I read this one second in the series, so it's whatever. I loved this book though. I did annotate it. All these pretty, oh, you can't see anything. There you go. All these pretty tabs. Anyways, that was a really good book. I don't have much to say about it, honestly. It was just really good and I really liked it. That concludes my 2023 reading wrap up of my top 5 books. Thank you for listening. I really hope you learned something from this, read something from this, enjoyed watching it. If you have different opinions than me on the books, I'd actually love to hear it. I love reading what people think about different books, so if you think Joe and Lori are the best couple ever and you want to convince me of it, write me a whole essay. I will read it start to finish, and I will think about it, okay? You might even make me reread the book. And in case anybody was wondering what my favorite is out of my favorites, it's gotta be The Hating Game. I loved it so much. It was just so good. The banter was amazing. I love the little grumpy sunshine moment. I love this like small town girl meets big city boy. I just loved it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Go eat some good food. I'm gonna go eat like, ooh. I'm gonna eat my hot fries. Okay, bye. Have a good day.